Hello, good morning to everybody. Welcome in my today's class. In today's class, we are going to complete the second and the third stanza of the poem Ode to the West Wind. And we know very well that Ode to the West Wind is a famous poem written by P.B. Shelley, who is a famous romantic poet of 19th century. This poem contains 5 stanzas and each stanza has 14 lines. In previous class, we have already discussed the first stanza, in which the best wind is treated as human being, and the best wind is a symbol of might, force and power. In the first stanza, the poet describes the effects of the west wind on the earth. It is called the preserver and the destroyer. And so in today's class we will see the second stanza and the third stanza of the poem Ode to the West Wind. So students, let's start the second stanza of the poem Ode to the West Wind. This stanza has 14 lines. The best wind is the symbol of force and power. The poet praises it for its destructive and creative power. It has twofold influences on the earth. It is destroyer as well as preserver. It drives away the dead leaves. It also buries the seeds under the earth, where they lie protected all through winter and sprout in spring. Thou on whose stream, mid the steep sky's commotion, thou here refer for west wind, whose stream, here west wind is compared to a stream who causes a great disturbance in the sky. Commotion means change. Loose clouds like earth's decaying leaves are shed, shook from the tangled webs of heaven and ocean. Angels of rain and lightning. Here clouds are called the messenger of rain and lightning. Clouds are called the messenger of rain and lightning. They are spread on the blue surface of thine airy surge. Thine means your, and thine here used for west wind. Like the bright hair uplifted from the head of some fair's Maenad. And Maenad is a female worshipper of Bacchus. Maenad is a female worshipper of Bacchus, and Bacchus is a god of wine. Who is Bacchus? Bacchus is the god of wine. And Maenad is the follower worshipper, female worshipper of Bacchus. Even from the dim verge of the horizon to the zenith's height. Verge means bank, of the horizon to the zenith's height. Zenith's height means the highest point in the sky. The highest point in the sky. The logs of the approaching storm, thou does means a funeral song of the dying year, to which this closing night will be the dome of a vast sepulchre, vaulted with thy congregated might, vaulted with all thy congregated might. So these line describes the great disturbance caused by the west wind when it blows through the sky. In the first section we see that west wind effects on the earth, and in second section we will see that west wind causes a great disturbance in the sky. In these lines we are to imagine here that there is a vast tree, there is a big tree whose roots are in the ocean. There is a big tree and whose roots are in the ocean and whose branches go up high into the sky. From the branches of this tree fall loose clouds in the same way as rotten leaves fall from an ordinary tree. These clouds are called the messengers of rain and lightning. And this picture of the cloud is followed by the picture of an approaching storm, and the black hair of the storm is spread on the blue waves of the surface of the west wind, and these clouds are compared with the disorderly hair and bekar कह रही है. In the last three lines of the stanza, the poet imagines the whistling sound of the west wind to be the dirge of the dying year. He says, the year is dying. The west wind is the funeral song over the death of the year. The poet says that the west wind is like the funeral song over the death of the year, and a big tomb will also be constructed over the dead year. The darkness of the night, which is spreading over the earth, will serve as the dome of that tomb. And from the dense cloud in the sky forming this ceiling, and there will fall rain, lightning, and hails upon the earth. And in the end, the poet requests to the west wind to hear his prayers. This is the third stanza of the poem Ode to the West Wind. In this stanza, the poet describes the effect or the disturbance caused by west wind on the Mediterranean Sea and Atlantic Sea. In this stanza, the poet P.B. Shelley treats the Mediterranean Sea as a human being. So, personification figure of speech has been used in this stanza. So, let's start the stanza. Thou who didst waken from his summer dreams, thou here refer for you. The blue Mediterranean is a name of ocean, where he lay lulled by the coil of his crystalline streams. Crystalline means pure and sparkling. Beside a pumice isle. Pumice isle is a name of Iceland. It is a volcanic island in Wages Bay. Wages Bay is a bay of Naples, and saw in sleep old palaces and towers quivering. Quivering means trembling within the waves' intenser day, all overgrown with azure moss and flowers, so sweet the sense faints picturing them. Thou for whose path the Atlantic's level powers cleave themselves into chasm, while far below the sea blooms and the oozy boats which wear the shapeless foliage of the ocean, know thy voice and suddenly grow grey with fear, or we can say pale with fear, and tremble and despoil themselves, O here. In this stanza, the poet says that the west wind disturbed the Mediterranean Ocean in his sleep. During summer, the Mediterranean, soothed by the pleasant sound of bright rivers, which fell into his water, and in his sleep the Mediterranean had many dreams. From this dreamful sleep, the Mediterranean was aroused by the violence of the west wind. So the sleep of the Mediterranean Sea disturbed by west wind. because it is very powerful. In this sleep, the Mediterranean dreamed of old palaces and towers of the cities buried under the sea during earthquake and volcanic eruption. On these palaces and towers, mass of such overpowering sweetness grows that the very thought of them comes laden with such a heavy perfume that the poet's sense faints while he pictures them. So, in the last line, like the other stanza, the poet P.B. Shelley requests to the best wind to listen him. He appeals to the best wind to hear him, to listen him.